In the deepest night of trouble and sorrow, God gives us so much to be thankful for that we need never to cease our singing. With all our wisdom and foresight, we can take a lesson in gladness and gratitude from the happy bird that sings all day as if the day were not long enough to tell its joy by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. With this positive initiation, we are here united once again in the virtual GSTS session to hear insights of a plethora of enlightening topics. A very warm good evening to the galaxy of intellectuals virtually present here for the 35th talk of the Graduate Scholars Talk series. Respected teachers and all my worthy fellow mates, it gives me immense pleasure to have been bestowed with this privilege to introduce myself and guide you all through this event that we are a part of this evening. I am Samriddhi Kanpal and I am a third year scholar of Bachelor of Arts in English Honours and I am pursuing my graduation from Uttaranchal University, Dehradun. The GSTS is hosted by the History Department Sakshi in association with IQAC Shamlal College Evening. The series is coordinated by a team of 5 members that include Mr. Ajay Gupta, Mr. Saurabh Singh, Ms. Manvi Saraswat, Ms. Shubhi Singh, and by me. The GSTS was initiated for the enthusiastic scholars to portray their views on various fascinating and scholarly topics. I would now like to extend a heartful of welcome and warm wishes to all of you for being a part of this event and sparing and sharing a valuable time with all of us. Saraswati, also known as Sharda, is the eternal goddess of knowledge, music, art, speech, and wisdom. She is a part of the divine trinity of Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. Goddess Saraswati is worshipped and devotees seek knowledge and wisdom in the form of blessings for her. Hence, in order to seek her blessings and initiate this session with a sublime start, I would now like to call upon Ms. Divya for Saraswati Vandana.
मातृ प्रणाम 1 2 3 या कुंदेन्दु तुषार हार धवला या शुभ्र वस्त्रावृता या वीणा वरदण्ड मंडित करा या श्वेत पद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शंकर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मा पातु सरस्वती भगवती निशेष जाड्यापहा.
Thank you so much, Divya, for that amazing start to this event. Now, let us move ahead with the further proceedings of this session. William Arthur Ward once mused that teaching is more than imparting knowledge, it is inspiring change. Learning is more than absorbing facts, it is acquiring understanding. And we all know the fact that knowledge is obviously useful, but if the knowledge is not applied and does not inspire change, then it will be forgotten. And therefore, true understanding is a catalyst for action. And who could be better than a teacher to impart this act of catalyzing the thought process? So, here we are today, and now I would like to welcome the guest teacher for today's evening, Dr. Roli Raghuvanshi, who holds a PhD in economics on FDI and industrial growth in India, a comparative analysis of pre-post liberalized era from Kamala Nehru Institute of Physical and Social Sciences. She is currently employed as assistant professor in the Department of Commerce, Shamlal College Evening, University of Delhi. She has a rich teaching experience of more than 17 years as a faculty member, mentor, researcher, and trainer. Her interest areas are macroeconomic and microeconomic aspects, the business environment and international trade issues such as regional integration, emerging economics, WTO, and various aspects of the international trade relations. She has published research papers in different journals and magazines of international and national repute and presented papers in national and international conferences and seminars as well. Having worked with the apex institutions like DSPSR, GGS Indraprasth University, MIT University, and many more, she has contributed to the quality assurance process of higher educational institutions, which include NAAC and other much accreditations of HEIs in India. I would now like to put forward a warm welcome. Ma'am, I would request you to grace us with your precious words that shall enlighten our minds and shall prove to be a motivating factor for our today's speaker.
Thank you very much, Samriddhi, for such a warm and heartfelt welcome. And I'm really happy when I got a call from Manish sir, and he said that, "Ma'am, would you please, accept our invitation?" I was more than happy because recently I penned down a research paper on missing women in India, and I was just, in the process of completing that paper, I was just shocked to, know a few things. Where we see that women are not treated at par, as all of us know, and which is the topic today for discussion, on which I'm very sure that Muskan is going to enlighten us very nicely. And I just realized that this topic is very apt. And since I just recently I have gone through all the materials and everything, all the updations on the status of women, not only here in India but abroad, so we need a discussion. And the main thing that I understood is introspection that we need to do. It's not only the discussion which is going on, the introspection that we need to do is very important, number one. And second thing that I want to, tell all of you here, that it is the societal, mindset that actually contributes a lot to this kind of, because we see that the literacy rate, if we talk about the literacy rate, and education of female, we find a upward, curve in that. And we find that, every year we are just, you can say, improving in that aspect. But why is it, so that on one hand the literacy rate is increasing, and on the other hand we find women suffering at all front? So that is what something we need to introspect. And I welcome you, Muskan, to just share your thoughts with us. And I'm very sure that you're going to enlighten us with a lot of things, a lot of discussion on various aspects. And I'm very sure that a lot of questions also will be arising after the discussion, and I would like students to participate. Whatever you have in your mind, you just cross question. And I think it is going to is going to be deliberated very nicely. So all the best, Muskan, and now the stage is all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your humble words. And believe me, it is an honor for all of us to have an intellectual asset like you in the session. And thank you once again for your priceless words and bestowing us with your benign presence for the session.
Thank
Now,
you
let
very
us
much.
move on for the next major part of today's evening. So, there is one critic, Audre Lorde, and in one of her books, she said that racism and homophobia are real conditions of all our lives in this place and time. She further continues to say that I urge each one of us here to reach down into that deep place of knowledge inside herself and touch that terror and loathing of any difference that lives here. See whose face it wears. Then the personal as the political can begin to illuminate all our choices. Mary Wollstonecraft, another feminist writer, in her book A Vindication of the Rights of Women, made the text a groundbreaking work of literature which still resonates various aspects of feminism. But not only feminism, she also talks about the human rights movement that are still relevant in the contemporary world as well. In her book, she says that I attribute these problems, specifically the gender discriminatory problems, to a false system of education gathered from the books written on the subject by men who, considering females rather as women than human creatures, have been more anxious to make them alluring mistresses than affectionate wives and rational mothers. The civilized women of this present century, with a few exceptions, are only anxious to inspire love when they ought to cherish nobler ambition and by their abilities and virtues exact respect. To restrain discrimination, specifically the gender discrimination that prevails in the society, in the chapter 12 of her book, which is on national education, she recommends the establishment of a national education system to operate mixed sex schools. She also argues that it is essential for women's dignity that they should be given with the right and the ability to earn their own living and support themselves. Henceforth, without any further ado, to throw more light on this topic and enlighten our minds with the different forms of gender discrimination, or so to say, the various other forms of discrimination and how it has affected in the discrimination of land ownership on religious scale, the arena of sports and caste system, I would now like to request the speaker of today's evening, Ms. Muskan, to come up with her topic, diverse discrimination.
Thank you, Samriddhi. First of all, good evening, everyone. My topic is diverse discrimination. So let me start. Life chances and opportunities are not equally available to everyone. That's what discrimination is. Good evening, everyone. My name is Muskan Sharma and I'm from Mata Sundari College. My topic is diverse discrimination. Basically, in reality, how we treat people differently is termed as discrimination. It is the act of making unjustified distinctions between human beings based on their groups, classes, or other things that they belong to. Discrimination includes social inequality, social stratification, prejudice, social inclusion, and stereotype. First, social inequality. Social inequality is differences shown to people in society. Social stratification is where different groups in society are separated from each other by inferiority or superiority. Third, prejudice. Prejudice is prejudgment. When someone says something and we believe in it, that is prejudice. For example, Marwaris are conjuice, Rajputs are courageous. Fourth, stereotype. Stereotype means when we categorize a whole group having one certain characteristic. That's what stereotype is. Like, for example, girls are weak, boys don't cry, pink color is for girls, and black for boys. Fifth, social exclusion. Social exclusion means when you are isolating someone and excluding her from your group. That's what social exclusion is. Now, I'm going to talk about the four objectives, that is gender discrimination in land ownership, gender discrimination in sports, religious discrimination, and fourth is recent caste census. And lastly, I would like to talk about the root causes of discrimination and how can we make our society less discriminatory or discriminatory free society. Now, gender discrimination in land ownership. Elizabeth Delhi in Women's Land Rights and Gender Justice in Land Governance points out that there is a need to harmonize the enforcement of the land law and the forestry law and the law on protected areas to effectively guarantee and protect the land rights of the poor and indigenous people, majority of which are women. Historically speaking, an ideological struggle was initiated by the state in India after independence to change some practices that favored the patriarchal system and male dominance. The patriarchal system in our society has been continuing since ancient days. Under British rules, the tradition of Hindu law were reinforced and the position of women under such traditions remained quite precarious. The Hindu Dharma Shastras and along with the various sets of Hindu law directly and indirectly legitimize the patriarchal system, and thus our society continued to remain a male-dominated society. And if we see the time period of Gupta period also, according to Sanskrit legal texts, women were not supposed to have independent access to resources, mainly such as land. But we see an exceptional case, that of Prabhavati Gupta. She had access to land. Prabhavati Gupta was the daughter of one of the most important rulers in early Indian history, Chandragupta II. She was the exceptional case, maybe because she was a queen, or it is also possible that the provisions of legal texts were not uniformly implemented. We see some progression of women too in the 19th century, like the Hindu Succession Act 1956, a progressive act introduced for the first time the notion of a woman as a wife, as a mother, as a daughter, as an equal and absolute owner of property with full rights at her disposal. Earlier, earlier, women could only inherit as widows, and that only too in the absence of four generations of genetic males. Although the 1956 Act was a substantial move forward, but it still fell woefully short of introducing equal inheritance rights for women and significant inequalities remained. Like, for example, son inherits 3/4 share, whereas women inherits only 1/4 share. The other glaring shortcomings in the Act was in the relation to tenurial laws. In a women's right to inherit agricultural land, exception was granted to tenancy land. It also gave unrestricted testamentary rights only to Hindu males in their separate and self-acquired property as well as their share of joint family property, which has been used to deprive females of their rights. Democratic institutions had made much progress in the 20th century, for which it is often hailed as People's Century. However, gender equality in real could not be accomplished and much is still needed to be done to improve the status of Indian women. Now, I am going to talk about the land ownership status in Assam and Bihar. First, I would like to talk about Assam. If we see land policies of Assam, women acquire land ownership mainly by two means. First, by purchase, and second, through inheritance. In reality, if property is a bundle of powers, women in Assam seem to have been deprived of this power. As we can see, the Dimasa society of Assam is patrilineal. The property rights of the female family are vested in a male member only, and only the sons can inherit the paternal property. And if we see the situation of Bihar, in Bihar, there was a need for an ideological struggle. The fact that the female is an inferior sex in the society is generally explained as a result of long-standing continuity of the patriarchal system that institutionalized male dominance in all spheres in our society, including that of land and other kinds of property control. Although domestic work was confined to women, and women were only restricted to private spheres of their life and not allowed that much to go in public domain. The majority of men in the rural areas who were consulted regarding women's rights categorically opposed the idea of according equality to women. Even those women who were living in urban areas and were educated generally don't consider desirable to share the property of their brothers by exercising their legal rights. This is due to the working of Vedic ideology in the patriarchal system of society. The legal system has been equipped with acts and laws for advancing the cause of women in respect of their religion, though much improvement is still needed in such acts and laws to improving the disparity between men and women. Now, I would like to talk about my second objective, that is sports discrimination. Before independence, the participation of women in sports in India was almost nil. This was due to the lack of proper facilities available in India. Moreover, the participation of women in sports were considered as not good because these women may look like men with muscular body and may not be accepted by the society. Another reason was the male dominance in sports. Safety and transportation added fuel to this. Jessica de Miller, Gary de Levy stated that participation in sports is primarily a masculine activity in society. Gender discrimination in sports has been long a controversial topic due to the inequality regarding wage, audience viewing numbers, and the overall range of opportunities that exist between men and women in the arena of competitive sports. Gender discrimination in sports is still an issue in the 21st century because more people still like to watch men's football than women's. And women's football is rarely as discussed in media also. Women's sports don't have lots of media exposure also. The women's sports and fitness received only 7% of coverage and a shocking 0.4% commercial sponsorship. Women who are paid usually earn less than their male colleagues. The Professional Golfers Association, for example, offers $256 million in prize money, whereas Women Association offers only 50 million. What is happening now? Things are changing, and there is an energy behind a positive attitude for the equality in the industry. A step increase in the participation and achieved for women were recorded. For example, in 2000 Sydney Olympics, Karnam Malleshwari became first woman from India to win an Olympic medal when she achieved bronze medal in weightlifting, and in 2012 London Olympics in boxing, Saina Nehwal achieved bronze medal in boxing, and MC Mary Kom got also bronze medal for boxing. In 2016 Rio Olympics, Sakshi Malik won bronze medal, PV Sandhu won silver medal, whereas Deepa Karamkar opened new dimensions of gymnastics. This achievement primarily due to the increased acceptance and improved facilities by center and state government through various schemes. Lots of have been done in recent years to address aspects like equal pay, but there is still more to be done to gain full equality. When the Women's World Cup achieved as much as excitement and sponsorship and audience engagement as the Men's World Cup, then we are nearer to having achieved equality in sports. Even after all this, women will have to fight against all their social hurdles, along with the outlook of school, college, authorities, parents, as well as society is to be changed, and a positive attitude towards women's sports is to be developed. Now, talking about religious discrimination, stop religious discrimination. Humanity is the best religion, quoted by Sheikh Salim. Religious discrimination is basically treating a person or group differently because of the particular beliefs which they hold about a religion. Some typical examples of religious discrimination are dismissing an employee because of their religion, deciding not to hire an applicant because he was a religion, paying an employee less because of their religion. In British India, Hindus and Muslims were each allowed to retain their personal religious laws and practices, though Sharia criminal law was replaced by English criminal law, and the Hindu customs of worship of Kali, goddess of death, was suppressed. Religious discrimination in India are of two types. First, which is amongst the Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Isais, Christians, Jains, Jews, and Parsis. Second, into the religion. Now, talking about my first type of discrimination, that is amongst the Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai. Yet, despite sharing certain values and religious beliefs, as well as living in the same country, under the same constitution, members of India's major religious communities often don't feel that they have much in common with each other. Like, the majority of Hindus see themselves as very different from Muslims, and most Muslims in return also see themselves very different from Hindus. Although there are few exceptions also, like 2,000 Jains and about half of Sikhs say that they have a lot in common with Hindus. But generally, people in India, majorly religious groups, tend to see themselves as a very different from each other. The perception of difference is reflected in the customs and traditions that maintain the separation of India's religious group. For example, marriages across religion lines and relatedly religious conversions are exceedingly rare. Now, I'm going to talk about the second type of discrimination, that is into the religion. Not only people from different religious groups discriminate among themselves, but people within the same religion also distinguish between themselves. They discriminate on the basis of socio-economic status, caste, class, gender, etc. For example, if we take मंदिर में एग्जांपल लेते हैं तो उसमें लाइक जो लाइंस होती है वो पुअर के लिए अलग होती है, एंड जो लाइक थोड़े सोशल बैकग्राउंड अच्छा होता है इनके उनके लिए अलग से वीआईपी रिजर्वेशन क्लासेस होते हैं। एंड गुरुद्वारे में भी अगर हम लंगर का केस भी देखें तो अगर कोई पुअर है तो अगर वो लंगर उसको और चाहिए तो उसके लिए खत्म हो जाएगा, और अगर कोई सोशली इक्वली अच्छी बेटर क्लास का है तो उसको उसको दे देंगे फटाफट। एंड इवन इन मॉस्क आल्सो इट हैव बीन रिड्यूस्ड टू मेल मोनोपोली ओनली। And if I talk about recent and best example of this is the Sabrimala temple issue. The Sabrimala temple, considered the abode of Lord Ayappa, is located in the Periyar Tiger Reserve in the Western Ghat district, Kerala. It prohibited the entry of women in their menstruating year, that is between the ages of 10 to 50 years, on the grounds that it is a place of worship. In 2006, Indian Young Lawyers Association filed a public interest litigation petition. The association argued that the custom violates the right to equality under Article 14 and freedom of religion under Article 25 of female worshippers. The state contended that the temple's priests have the final authority of this matter. The Sabrimala custom was protected by the Rule 3B of the Kerala Hindu Places of Worship, Rug 1965. The rule allowed the exclusion of women from public places of worship if the exclusion was based on custom. The court ruled the Sabrimala's exclusion of women violated the fundamental rights of women between the ages of 10 to 50 years, and Rule 3B of Public Worship Ruler was unconstitutionalized. More than 50 petitions were subsequently filed by various organizations. The review petitions will be disposed after the court first decides certain overarching constitutional questions regarding the interplay between the fundamental rights to equality and freedom of religion. Now, talking about recent caste census, Keith Porteous Wood of National Secular Security quoted out that the blight of caste discrimination under which millions in India are regarded as untouchables has spread to the country virtually unnoticed. Caste still widely remain the source of social discrimination and economic deprivation even today. Every census in independent India from 1951 to 2011 has published data on scheduled caste and scheduled type, but not on other castes. However, in 1941, caste-based data was collected but not published. There is no proper estimate for the populations of other backward class, various groups, and within the OBCs and others. How often has the demand for caste census has been made? It comes up before almost every census as records of debates and questions raised in parliament. The demand usually comes from among those belonging to other backward class and other deprived sections, while sections from the upper caste oppose this idea. What are the key issues and challenges? So, what are the key issues and challenges? There is a fear of potential abuse of the data on caste for petty vote bank politics. There is a legitimacy concern that caste is an inherently subjective construct. There is no clear answer to the question, what is your caste? With increasing urbanization, caste is getting more and more fluid, thereby eroding the endogamous nature of society. The census main objective is to perform the act of aggregation that nobody else can do. In such a situation, the total number of castes perhaps may rise manifold. By concluding this, I wanted to say that a decadal exercise which began 150 years ago had faced a discontinuation with this pandemic, which is damaging enough, and which will require reconstruction for the year of 2021. Now, through this talk, I have talked about 4 general objectives of discrimination, but there are also other objectives of discrimination also. Like in social life, political life, there are huge types of discrimination. Like if talking about my case, when I was in 11th standard, I opted for humanities. So when I opted for humanities, my science batchmates used to make fun of me. Like they used to say, "How is your art going?" Like they used to denote it as a drawing. They said कि तुम्हारी arts कैसी चल रही है? And I was the only girl in physical education from my batch. So my teacher told me to collect the notebooks. So one boy said to me कि तुम आर्ट्स वाले बच्चे हो, तुम साइंस वाले बच्चों से पंगे मत लो. So these are the types of discrimination that we all face in our day-to-day life. So मैंने कुछ नहीं किया, I just remained bold and I just scored 86.75% and I got admission in DU. That was the biggest achievement for me. So now talking about the root cause of discrimination. It is due to the pattern of mindset of people and it starts from private spheres only. Like if we see private spheres में अगर एक लड़का लड़की दोनों है तो उसमें घर पे ये नहीं बोला जाता है लड़की करेगी काम, घर का सारा काम लड़की को दे दिया जाता है और लड़के को कहीं भी जाने की परमिशन मिल जाती है और लड़की पूछे तो उस पर 100 सवाल किए जाते हैं, क्यों किए जाते हैं. और तो इसलिए पैटर्न ऑफ माइंडसेट में चेंज होने की जरूरत है हमें. लाइक कुकिंग और हाउस होल्ड कोर्स बोला जाता है सारे लड़कियों के काम है, बट क्यों? ये कुकिंग और हाउस होल्ड कोर्स शुड बी अ बेसिक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी and not a specific gender role. This mindset we have to change. And people should not compare each other. Like अगर कोई लड़की फिजिकली ज्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग है तो उसको कंपेयर किया जाता है लड़के से कि एकदम लड़के की तरह है. या जैसे हम दंगल मूवी भी अगर देखी हो तो उसमें उसे बोलता है हमारी छोरियां छोरों से कम है के, तो वो इट्स लाइक कम है तो तुम वही दिखा रहे हो ना कि लड़की इंफीरियर है और लड़का सुपीरियर है, तो कंपेयर ही क्यों करना, कंपेयर ही करना. सबकी खुद की एक इंपॉर्टेंस है, सबकी खुद की एक वैल्यू है एंड वी शुड ऑल रिस्पेक्ट दैट. नाउ talking about how can we make our society less discriminatory. We can provide education to the needy. Like if हमें कोई poor दिखता है जिसको नीड है या हमारे घर पे जो मेड्स वगैरह भी आती हैं, अगर हम उनको भी एजुकेशन वगैरह हम प्रोवाइड करें हम खुद से, तो इट विल मेक बेटर सिचुएशन. लाइक अगर हम वर्क भी करें एनजीओ वगैरह में, ग्रुप्स में, और जितना ज्यादा हम एजुकेशन प्रोवाइड करेंगे उतनी ज्यादा अवेयरनेस बढ़ेगी. एंड वी शुड स्टार्ट वॉचिंग एंड एनकरेजिंग विमेन स्पोर्ट. लाइक हमें सारी मूवीज के नाम पता होता है, हमें जो क्रिकेट की टीम का कैप्टन होता है उसका नाम पता है, बट हमें विमेन्स की फुटबॉल टीम के कैप्टन तक का नाम पता है. तो वी शुड स्टार्ट एनकरेजिंग एंड वॉचिंग विमेन स्पोर्ट्स ऑल्सो. And we can organize various awareness programs on various issues. And we should respect every religion. Or merit should be based on the performance base and not on the caste, class, and reservation based. At last, I wanted to say that to bring a change in society, first we need to bring a change in ourselves, our pattern of thinking. We should be unbiased because we are the future of our society. Thank you.
Okay, so Miss Muskan, that was really a very remarkable talk, I would say. Like basically you explained like all the types of discrimination in really a very better way. Like it was not even controversial, it was really nice. So I have something to say like on the paying wage basically in sports discrimination. It's like historically participation in sports has been discriminatory with men being favored over women as sport has been considered to be an inappropriate field for women, you see. Even though women's participation has grown over the years, underlying gender biases are still present in many aspects of sport. Wage gap is one of the most overt areas of prejudice as women remain far behind men when it comes to being paid in sports. An example of this is the staggering pay gap between the highest paid players in men's and women's cricket in India. The Board of Control for Cricket in India, like BCCI, pays Smriti Mandhana 68.5 thousand US dollars per annum, which is 7% of Virat Kohli's annual income of 952,000 US dollars. Women's entry into sports happened much later than men due to societal restrictions. This has resulted in a lower entertainment value of women's sport. On the other hand, men's sport has always been encouraged, which has allowed it to become a global sensation, further driving investments in it. And the weak representation of women in sports governance structures is also a cause of the persistence of the pay gap in the sport industry. Female representation in some governance structures has improved, but this has only happened recently. Further, most of the governing bodies still need a stronger push to enhance female membership. The number of positions held by women in the International Olympic Committee increased to 47.7%, but there is a dearth of women in the governance structures of other affiliated bodies. This has also been reflected in decision making related to the financial outlay in sports. According to a BBC study of 68 different sports, 83% of sports give men and women equal prize money, but that is only at the World Championship level. There is still a need to strengthen representation at international as well as national sports governing institutions to add the much needed perspective of women. So we also have some questions from our speakers. So the first question is from Aradhya Tyagi, and he's asking, do you think economic upliftment is the solution of discrimination? Ms. Muskan?
Yes.
Should I repeat the question?
Yes, please repeat actually.
Okay, so he is asking, do you think economic upliftment is the solution of discrimination?
I think in some context, economic upliftment is the solution, because if women are independent, like they have more rights. Like in अगर हम घर private spheres में भी देखें तो उनको थोड़ी freedom मिल जाती है. Like अगर वो job कर रही हैं and like economically independent है, तो घर पे उनको ज्यादा कुछ नहीं बोला जाता, पर वैसे उन पर 100 सवाल किए जाते हैं. तो I think yeah, in some context it is.
Okay, so the next question is from Miss Shruti. She's asking, do you think affirmative action is really correct step towards eradicating discrimination?
Like eradicating discrimination requires a lot, but yes, it's also needed. Like डिस्क्रिमिनेशन इरेडिकेट करने के लिए सबसे पहले तो हमें खुद की पैटर्न ऑफ थिंकिंग में बहुत ज्यादा चेंजेस करने पड़ेंगे, लाइक खुद के माइंडसेट में, जो कि इंडिया में अभी तक नहीं हुआ है. तो या
Okay, so the next question is from Miss Diksha. She's asking, do you think we can put an end to at least religious discrimination by introducing uniform civil code? What are your views?
religious discrimination, like it's a huge thing, like it takes a time, but I think she is also correct. Like by putting that we can like reduce it but not completely end it. But religious discrimination requires lots of government laws, and अगर कोई उस पे religiously discriminate भी कर रहा है, किसी पे bad comments भी pass कर रहा है, तो उसके लिए भी अगर जैसे हर चीज के लिए गवर्नमेंट टैक्स लगा देता है, तो या फिर तो वो सब चीजें अगर कर दे गवर्नमेंट, तो उसके डर से शायद लोग कम कर देंगे करना.
Okay. So the next question and the last is from Mr. Saurabh Singh. He's asking, positive discrimination is also some sort of discrimination if you critically analyze it. What are your views regarding this? Is this a permanent solution to the inequality present in our society?
Can you please repeat the first phase of question?
Yeah. He's asking that positive discrimination is also some sort of discrimination if you critically analyze it. What are your views regarding this?
Saurabh, can you explain this question?
Please.
Okay, sir.
Sir,
I will
actually, sir, I'm asking regarding the reservation, sir.
I
Positive
will take the
discrimination.
floor, Mr. Saurabh Singh. Okay. May I, sir? Manish, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible properly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me give you one very latest example of positive discrimination. 2 साल पहले करीब आप सबने टीना डाबी का नाम सुना होगा. Have you heard about her? Tina Dabi.
Yes,
She
ma'am.
was UPSC topper.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right? And right now she is working with Rajasthan in Rajasthan cadre. ठीक है, तो IAS एग्जाम में जो लड़की टॉप कर रही है, so you can understand the caliber of hers. Okay? लेकिन समस्या यहाँ पे क्या है कि एक इंसान को इंसान नहीं रहने दिया जाता है. You don't allow a girl, to be a human being or a female to be a human being. महिमा मंडन शुरू हो जाता है उसका. टीना डाबी हैज क्वालिफाइड. ओके, कोई मेल भी क्वालिफाई करता, उसका भी डेफिनेटली एप्रिसिएशन होता. टीना डाबी का भी हुआ. बट बीइंग अ फीमेल, there were other repercussions which she felt actually. being a good administrator, right, does not mean that you will be having very cordial relations with your husband also at home. होना चाहिए, डेफिनेटली कंपैटिबिलिटी होनी चाहिए, लेकिन अगर आप अच्छे एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर हैं, आपने यूपीएससी में टॉप किया है, तो वो चूंकि एक लड़की थी तो उसका इतना महिमा मंडन कर दिया हमारे समाज ने, जो हमारी सामाजिक व्यवस्था है। तो होता क्या है कि जो स्त्रियां होती हैं, जो औरतें होती हैं, वो बिल्कुल प्रेशर में, यू फील प्रेशराइज्ड एक्चुअली, बिकॉज आपको रोल मॉडल बना दिया जाता है, right? So that is a positive discrimination only. Why don't you allow a person to be just a human being, just a competitor, just a civil aspirant who just, dare to, bring one first position in the entire nation? So point is that even if you are positively discriminating somebody on the, basis of a girl and a boy, so that has its own repercussion, which is bringing the person in lot of, you can say tension, a lot of pressure, and the person is not capable of performing well. Right, Saurabh? So point is that allow a person to be a person. No girl, no, male, no female, no girl, no boy. Don't do it. Because if we are not going to stop it and we continue doing it, so ये समस्या तो कभी खत्म ही नहीं होगी। इसलिए क्योंकि आप, चूंकि वो एक स्त्री है, तो उसको इतना ज्यादा हाईलाइट कर दिया, उसका डिवोर्स हो रहा है, एंड शी इज नॉट, she could not cope up in her married life. So that is not done actually. People might have differences, people might have even partners have their difference of opinion. Doesn't mean that she should be so much pressurized. So I hope that you have got the answer. So permanent solution will only come when we, change the state of mind, the way we think. Okay, the example is in front of you. तो लड़की है, टॉप कर गई, इसलिए इतना महिमा मंडन हो गया। तो इन चीजों से हमको बचना है। और तभी सच पूछिए, देखिए कुछ चीजें हम यहाँ पे ऐड करना चाहेंगे, और भी कुछ क्वेश्चंस हमें यहाँ पे दिख रहे हैं। आई वुड जस्ट लव टू टेक
रोली मैम वो लास्ट में हम लोग ले लेंगे जब,
अच्छा ठीक है,
स्टूडेंट्स,
फाइन
बिकॉज़ वी हैव सम फॉर्मेलिटीज। जब आप लास्ट में ऑब्वियस वी कॉल यू, दे विल
राइट, ओके सर, ओके,
टेक एवरी क्वेश्चन एंड आस्क।
ओके, फाइन,
Manvi, go ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And it was literally a very good example to explain this. And thank you, Miss Muskan. Now over to you, Miss Samriddhi.
Thank you so much, Muskan, for an amazing execution of the talk. And I'm sure that all the virtual attendees relished this session and took in various insights of the event, and especially, and all the description that you made. Now, let us proceed to the next part of this GSTS session. So, a French Nobel laureate, Romain Rolland, once said that if there is one place on the face of earth where all the dreams of living men have found a home, from the very earliest days when man began the dream of existence, it is India. With this intricate description of the magnificence and the dreams turning into reality assertion of Rolland, India has certainly proved to be a nation of hearts for many scholars. Besides this, the Constitution of India and the elements it encapsulates have been a matter of deep consideration for many people. For our next session of GSTS, I would now like to call upon Ms. Anushri for another fascinating topic that is picked up by her, which is ideas and debates on the Hindu Code Bill.
Good evening, everyone. The topic that I've chosen is ideas and debates on the Hindu Code Bill for my talk. It revolves around the discussions and implementation that went around this bill. I would be talking about the revolutionary nature of the bill. I would also like to mention the basis and need for this bill. Then I would be discussing the major role played by Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of independent India, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Minister of Law and Justice, who drafted and formulated the Hindu Code Bill. They were modernists who were ready to bring about a radical change in the functioning of an orthodox Indian society. I would further like to mention the opposition which was received by these two leaders. How leaders from the Congress, primarily Hindu traditionalists like Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Shama Prasad Mukherjee, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and various others sought to go against the bill in order to preserve the Hindu religion from any reforms. There was vehement opposition from the public sphere as well. Religious leaders such as Swami Karpatri challenged Ambedkar publicly. Through this session, I would like to describe the status of women in a newly independent nation and compare it with contemporary times. Further, I would like to mention I would like to mention the debates surrounding the bill in today's time. I would like to bring everyone's attention to the historical significance that this liberal bill promised and still is relevant in the present times. The purpose of this talk is to make people aware about a bill which changed the lives of millions of Hindus of a newly independent nation. In conclusion, this bill was passed after a lot of changes, and in my opinion, this bill was ahead of its time, as it promised to give women the basic rights like right to property, divorce, remarriage, guardianship, maintenance, and adoption. It was a part of the social engineering of a revolutionary measure. Revolutionary in the sense it questioned the earlier notions and practices of a society in particular and was ready to bring about a massive change. I request you all for your kind presence on the coming Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anushri, and I'm sure that we are all looking forward enthusiastically for your talk. Now let us move on to the next segment of the session. C.S. Lewis once mused that mere change is not growth. Growth is the synthesis of change and continuity, and where there is no continuity, there is no growth. And now, I would like to request Ms. Divya Tyagi, an editor from the exemplary monthly journal of Sakshi, which is Journal of Continuity and Change, acronymed as JCC, to come up with a team of JCC and before us and portray the valuable insights, the crucial aspects, and all the thematic description that the magazine beholds.
Thank you so much, Ms. Samriddhi. So good evening, everyone. As Ms. Samriddhi told, I'm Divya Tyagi, an editor in the magazine, which is Journal of Continuity and Change, JCC by graduates, which is a monthly magazine and initiated by Sakshi, the Society of History Department of Shamlal College Evening. And we publish our magazine every month with a new theme dealing with the social, political, and economic issue of the particular month. So far, we have published 3 magazines. The first one dealing with the theme of the population bomb. The second one was Fear and Courage. The third one was The Next Frontier. And for the month of October, the 4th edition of the magazine deals with Incredible India. Now, our magazine includes the articles, the poems, stories, book reviews, research papers, and etc. of the budding scholars, which will help shape their writing skills, their creativity, and confidence, and will provide them a platform to publish their work. Now, this magazine is an attempt to take the readers on a journey of the past through the present to see the future. JCC will help you have a better perspective of the contemporary issues and help you find light amid the darkness. So, for the 4th edition, which is the Incredible India, the incredibility of India lies in its very soil and the blood of Indians. As you know, the month of October is a month of celebration. Therefore, the Journal of Continuity and Change 4th edition is set on the theme Incredible India. We are searching for articles portraying the uniqueness of our diverse and beautiful India. India, the culture is heritage. In the Indian culture is the heritage of social norms, ethical values, traditional customs, belief systems, political systems, artifacts, and so much more. So the diversity of India can be seen in its language, the rituals, the traditions, handicrafts, monuments, dances, and etc. So there is so much veiled glory in our India that we see, but gets overlooked. So this is our invitation for you to submit your articles on the theme of Incredible India by the 20th of October, so that we can publish it in our magazine, which is a great theme this month, which is Incredible India, celebrating the value of India. There's so much that we need to celebrate about India. So I request you all to please submit your articles by the 20th of October, and all the details and all the guidelines will be provided to you in the chat box. So please, and on the 30th of October, we will be launching our 4th edition of the magazine on an independent platform with a new series called the Editor's Insights. We will be launching the 4th edition, and we welcome you all to please join it and enjoy the launch of the magazine. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Divya, and I am sure and very certain of the fact that the entire JCC team is very diligent and commendable in their approach, and I'm sure that it will reach great heights and shall prove to be of great perspective for all the enthusiastic scholars. Now we will move on to the next section of this session. Clay B. Bedford, in one of his articles, he said that you can teach a student a lesson for a day, but if you can teach him by creating curiosity, he will continue the learning process as long as he lives. And a teacher's role is justified here, where they impart the crucial aspects for the overall holistic development of a child. Because a curious mind cannot be satisfied, it wants to see, feel, and learn every day. Teachers who encourage curiosity in their students will know that they made an impact that will transform the student to a great personality someday. It is hence unacceptable to miss out the indispensable comments of our honorable guest teacher of this talk of GSTS, Dr. Roli Raghuvanshi. Ma'am, on the behalf of entire GSTS team, fraternity, and I would like to extend a humble request before you to grace us with your intellect and provide the points of convergence that were encapsulated in today's diligent talk by Ms. Muskan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There are few things that I want to share with all of you. Actually, whatever we have discussed till now, we have just talked about the discrimination that is taking place in the Indian economy, okay, or in India. So let me just give you a glimpse of few things which was published by a report, from World Economic Forum. So you can understand the authenticity of the report, and some astonishing facts were actually, recovered from that. Now, the first fact that they found out was that the women are 47%, they are more likely to suffer severe injuries, right, in car crashes. So the point is that because the safety features are designed for men, now we are all, talking about discrimination in India. Now, let me just tell you here that this research was conducted by University of Virginia, right? And so you are talking of the most developed country of the world. And that study, just came out with the fact that the positioning of head restraint, or they don't consider, women shorter height, different type of neck strength, musculature, etc., and the seating position. So everything that they are designing, the automobile companies, that is from the perspective of men. So that is why the chances are likely high that, women are going to, not going to survive. They are more prone to the accidents, and the chances are likely less that they would be surviving. So this is something which happened in the US. Now, they also analyzed many economies of the world, and they found out that before the age of 18, okay, around 33,000 girls, are becoming child brides every day. जैसे आप बाल विवाह कहते हैं, ठीक है, और जो प्रोहिबिटेड भी है, हमारे यहाँ भी है, हर जगह है. लेकिन देखिए 33,000 अगर लड़कियां जो है बाल विवाह का शिकार हो रही हैं एवरी डे. So you can understand, the problem. So the problem doesn't only lie in the Asian economies. It is spread throughout, right? So because communities are thinking, that, okay, we are going to marry off our girls, और हम इकोनॉमिक बर्डन किसी और के ऊपर अपना ट्रांसफर कर देंगे. सो दिस इकोनॉमिक बर्डन मैटर्स अ लॉट, एंड स्पेशली फॉर देम who belong to lower social strata. So that is something which is of concern and which doesn't just belong to India. इसी तरह से अफ्रीकन कॉन्टिनेंट पे जो है स्टडी कंडक्ट हुई, और ये पाया गया कि एवरेज आवर्स पर वीक जो थे, जैसे अगर आपको पानी का इंतजाम करना है, क्योंकि आप जानते हैं कि सब सहारन अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज जो हैं, जैसे गुएना होगा आपके यहाँ, आपका मेडागास्कर हो गया, मलावी हो गया, सिएरा लियोन हो गया, ये सारी डिस्टर्ब्ड इकोनॉमीज हैं, ठीक है, और पानी की भी बहुत किल्लत है यहाँ पे. तो यहाँ पे जो पानी के इंतजाम का काम था, so it was estimated that approx 40 billion hours a woman has to, per year, in terms of collecting the water for the family. So what they wanted to portray is कि इस तरह के एरिया में जो औरतें हैं उनके ऊपर काम का बोझ बहुत ज्यादा है, क्योंकि पानी की व्यवस्था में ही उनका इतने घंटे उनके चले जा रहे हैं, which is a major cause of concern. Why is it not that both, male and female are, taking the burden in an equal manner? So the discrimination was found out to be here also. And after, going through all these things, there was a more, astonishing, fact that it will take another 108 years to reach the gender parity 108 वर्षों का समय और लगेगा जब हम जेंडर पैरिटी को हटा पाएंगे. एंड दिस इज एज पर, दिस डेटा इज नॉट माइन, दिस डेटा इज एज पर वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम्स मोस्ट रिसेंट ग्लोबल जेंडर रिपोर्ट. तो आप देखिए कि 106 कंट्रीज को एनालाइज किया गया और ये पाया गया कि हम दो तरह के डायमेंशंस की बात करें की गई. उसमें इकोनॉमिक डायमेंशन और पॉलिटिकल एम्पावरमेंट की बात की गई. और इकोनॉमिक डायमेंशन में हमने पाया कि हमें कम से कम 200 साल करीब लगेंगे. पॉलिटिकल एम्पावरमेंट पा गया कि कम से कम 106-107 साल लगेंगे, एंड अदरवाइज 108 years. सो यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड दैट वेयर वी आर हेडिंग, वेयर द वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमीज आर हेडिंग, एंड दैट इज अ मेजर एरिया ऑफ कंसर्न एक्चुअली. And let me tell you that when we talk about so many countries, there are more than 200 countries. But when we start talking about discrimination, so you will find that only 6 countries out of the more than 200, or so countries, that is Denmark is there, then Belgium is there, Luxembourg is there, Sweden is there. यही countries हैं 5-6 आपकी जो कि right from pension to freedom of movement, freedom of speech, influencing economic decisions, women's right, इन सब की बात करते हैं. तो अगर 200 कंट्रीज से ज्यादा कंट्रीज हैं और 6 में ही आप देखते हो कि समानता हर पैरामीटर पे दी गई है, तो ये भी एक सोचने का विषय हो जाता है. और इसी तरह आप देखिए, जब हम स्टेम की बात करते हैं, जब हम साइंस, इंजीनियरिंग, मैथमेटिक्स और कंप्यूटर स्ट्रीम की बात करते हैं, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की बात करते हैं, वहां भी जो वुमेन का पार्टिसिपेशन है, दैट इज वेरी लेस. So if you do a global survey, you will find that merely 20-22% of women are actually a part of it. हालांकि ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई IQ लेवल में किसी की कमी है या अंडरस्टैंडिंग में कमी है किसी के, कॉन्फिडेंट, बट द काइंड ऑफ सोशल माइंड सेटअप इज देयर. So definitely when it comes to confidence, they lose it and they think that okay, we are not going to perform as good as boys. तो हम देखते हैं कि जो हमारा समाज है, चाहे वो भारतवर्ष का समाज हो, चाहे वो अमेरिका जैसे डेवलप्ड, जो आप जैसे डेवलप्ड इकोनॉमी कहते हैं, चाहे वो वहां का समाज हो, कहीं का भी समाज हो, चाहे उसमें आप विकसित देश देख लीजिए, विकासशील देख लीजिए, ठीक है, तो हर जगह ये समस्या देखने को मिलती है. लेकिन हमको सारी चीजों पे डिस्कशन करने के पहले हमको ये सोचना पड़ेगा कि ये समस्या आई क्यों, ये समस्या आई कहाँ से. क्योंकि जब अगर आप वैदिक काल की बात करते हैं तो आप देखिए कि धार्मिक रूप से कोई भी काम बिना स्त्रियों के नहीं होता था, ठीक है. राजनीतिक रूप से उनका पूरा, दे यूज्ड टू पार्टिसिपेट पॉलिटिकली, दे वर वेरी एक्टिव सोशली, दे वर इन्वॉल्वड इन ऑल काइंड ऑफ रिलीजन रिलेटेड वर्क. तो धर्म से रिलेटेड, समाज से रिलेटेड आपके पास बहुत सारे नाम हैं. आप लोपामुद्रा का नाम लीजिए, आप लीलावती का नाम लीजिए जो महान गणितज्ञ थी, ठीक है. Then you have Shachi, she was so bright, right? You have I mean बहुत सारी विदुषियां ऐसी थी जो कि एक्चुअली जिन्होंने अपना लोहा मनवाया, जिन्होंने अपना परचम फैलाया. तो ऐसी क्या बात हो गई, ऐसा क्या हो गया, ऐसा क्या ताना बाना, हमारा जो सोशल स्ट्रक्चर था वो ऐसा कैसे चेंज हो गया कि स्त्रियों की जो है स्थिति इतनी दयनीय हो गई. तो उसके पीछे बहुत सारे रीजंस हैं. आप उसमें सामंतवाद को भी रख सकते हैं, आप उसमें पूंजीवाद, जैसे आप कैपिटलिज्म कहते हैं, आप उसको भी रख सकते हैं. और सबसे जो अहम चीज है जो हमें समझ में आई कि जब लिबरलाइजेशन, प्राइवेटाइजेशन और ग्लोबलाइजेशन की तरफ हम लोग उन्मुख हुए, यानी 1990 के दशक और उसके आगे की बात कर रहे हैं, तो स्त्रियों को, यानी women's were actually kept in front of everybody in the form of a commodity, which was not actually good. And when you commoditize something, when you present them in the form of a commodity, so definitely people are going to take them lightly. Now that was the time when the multinational corporations were entering India, right? And they wanted a few females who would be marketing for their product, who would be just coming up, because all of you know that India is a great market for everybody, okay? And back in 90s when we started the liberalization process, and when we started doing all these things, so you should understand that जो commodity के रूप में आपने पेश किया, वहां से ज्यादा जो है गड़बड़ी होना शुरू हो गई. और उसके बाद आप देखिए कि इसके लिए कहीं ना कहीं हम लोग भी जिम्मेदार हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ हम पुरुष मानसिकता को ही इसके लिए दोष देंगे. आपको हम एक बहुत ही सिंपल सा एग्जांपल देते हैं. मान लीजिए हम अपने घर की बात करें, एंड सपोज आई एम मैरिड टू अ मैन, एंड द पर्सन इज हैविंग अ सिस्टर आल्सो. नाउ इफ द सिस्टर कम्स एंड क्लेम्स कि भाई प्रॉपर्टी में हमारा भी, नॉट इवन इफ शी डजंट क्लेम, And so how much ready I am, to understand the importance that my husband and his sister, they are at par as human beings. So whatever, ancestral property is coming your way, it just doesn't belong to my husband, it belongs to his sister as well. She takes it, she doesn't takes it, that is her will. But as a woman, are we not responsible? As wives, are we thinking, in the same manner that somebody who's married to my brother should give respect to me, right? But am I respecting in the same manner my husband's sister? So you cannot just keep on telling all the time that purush pradhan mansikta, purush pradhan samaj. No, even women, even females are equally responsible for that. And I think you have to come out of that mindset. I gave you one example, okay? और मैं आपको बता दूं कि जो स्त्रियों पे जो काम है, देखिए हम साहित्य में स्त्री विमर्श की बात करते हैं, हम आज भी हमने टॉक शो रखा हुआ है, इसी तरह पैरेलली बहुत सारे साइमल्टेनियसली टॉक शोज आज हो रहे होंगे स्त्रियों के ऊपर, महिलाओं के ऊपर. बट समस्या ये है कि जब तक आपकी मानसिकता बदलेगी नहीं, तब तक उस समस्या का हल नहीं है. मैंने आपको बताया कि मैं अपना पेपर लिख रही थी, रिसर्च पेपर, और मेरे पेपर का टॉपिक ही था मिसिंग विमेन इन इंडियन सब नेशनल गवर्नमेंट. और हमने उसमें स्टेट वाइज स्टडी की और ये पाया कि जैसे मान लीजिए फॉर एग्जांपल हरियाणा है, हमने उसमें सेक्स रेशियो लिया था और हमने अपनी स्टडी के लिए उसमें इलिटरेसी रेट लिया था, और हमने देखा कि पिछले 10 दशकों में जो एक तरह से डेवलपमेंट हुआ है लिटरेसी रेट में, उस हिसाब से तो हमारे यहाँ जो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है वो बिल्कुल होना ही नहीं चाहिए. इसलिए मैंने आपको बाकी जगहों का उदाहरण दिया कि भले ही वो डेवलप्ड है, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन वहां भी है. क्यों? क्योंकि सोच हमारी है, क्योंकि सामाजिक ताना बाना हमारा ऐसा है, सोशल स्ट्रक्चर हमारा ऐसा है कि इस तरह का डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है. So the point is that until and unless we don't, we are not going to start it from ourselves, from our own home, the things are not. आप जो है संविधान में आप कानून बनवाते रहिए, ठीक है, उसको आधा इम्प्लीमेंट करवाइए, आधा मत इम्प्लीमेंट करवाइए, ये सब चलता रहेगा. But until and unless we are not, focusing ourselves, we are not going to teach our children that, okay, no gender discrimination, co-cheering, everybody is a human being. Just, give your performance, okay, give your best, and just come out, as a shining star. So, जब तक ये चीज नहीं होगी, तब तक ये सारे discriminations चलेंगे. और जो मैं आपको बता रही थी कि जो हम कहते हैं ना कि एजुकेशन का लेवल सुधार दीजिए, तो एजुकेशन का लेवल सुधरने से जो है जेंडर डिस्पैरिटी कम हो जाएगी, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है. सरप्राइजिंगली ऐसा नहीं है. आप देखिए कि एजुकेशन का लेवल हमारे यहाँ लगभग 70% पहुंच गया है, ठीक है, लेकिन जो जेंडर डिस्पैरिटी है वो अगर 2011 का सेंसस हम देखें, क्योंकि 21 में तो गणना ही नहीं हुई है, और आप 2010 की जनगणना देखिए तो आपको दिखेगा कि सेक्स रेशियो में डेफिनेटली सुधार आया है, करीब 10%, 9.2% का सुधार आया है, ठीक है. लेकिन दूसरी तरफ हम जब चाइल्ड सेक्स रेशियो को देखते हैं, चाइल्ड सेक्स रेशियो विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, विच इज गोइंग टू बी आवर फ्यूचर जनरेशन, you find that it is falling continuously, and that is a major cause of concern, major cause of concern. इसलिए क्योंकि अगर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, आप ये चीज समझिए कि अगर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है तो आप देखिए कि समाज में क्या होगा. एंटी सोशल बिहेवियर, सोसाइटल थ्रेटनिंग होगी, ठीक है. क्यों? क्योंकि जो पुरुष वर्ग है वो साइडलाइन हो जाएगा सोसाइटी में. आप सब जानते हैं कि जब घर गृहस्थी बसती है, देखिए सामाजिक तौर पे हम आपको समझाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. सो यू आर जस्ट एंगेज इन टू एवरीथिंग, यू आर एंगेज इन लुकिंग आफ्टर योर वाइफ, योर चिल्ड्रन, योर एवरीथिंग. इफ यू डोंट हैव अ हाउस, डेफिनेटली यू आर गोइंग टू एक्ट इन अ एंटी सोशल मैनर, एंड दैट इज एंड व्हाट इज हैपनिंग राइट नाउ. बिकॉज सेक्स रेशियो आप केरला और कुछ राज्यों को हटा दीजिए तो हमारा बिल्कुल उल्टा ही है, ठीक है, जिसमें हरियाणा अव्वल पे है. तो आप देखिए कि अगर उस चीज में सुधार नहीं होता है, ठीक है, तो जो मेल है वो हाशिए पे, जो पुरुष समाज है वो हाशिए पे आ जाएगा. और अगर उनको ब्राइड्स ही नहीं मिल रही हैं अपने लिए, if they are not getting girls to marry, then what will happen? All of you know that what will happen, right? Because there will be all around insecurity, and which is going to worsen the situation day by day. ठीक है, तो इसलिए सवाल ये उठता है कि क्योंकि जितनी भी रिपोर्ट्स आ रही है, जैसे यूनाइटेड नेशंस ने भी अभी अगेंस्ट माई विल करके एक रिपोर्ट वो लेके आए थे, और उन्होंने बताया कि लगभग 45 मिलियन फीमेल्स जो हैं, इंडियन डेमोग्राफी की उन्होंने बात की थी, 45 मिलियन फीमेल्स की, ठीक है, कि जो प्री नेटल जो सिलेक्शन होता है, बर्थ सिलेक्शन जो होता है, ठीक है, वो इसीलिए क्योंकि सन प्रेफरेंस है. तो जेंडर इनइक्वालिटी के लिए कहीं ना कहीं सामाजिक रूप से हम ज्यादा दोषी हैं. धार्मिक रूप से हम उतने दोषी नहीं है जितना सामाजिक रूप से है, क्योंकि हमारा जो सोच का तरीका है वो बहुत ही गलत है, ठीक है. और कमला भसीन जो कि अभी हाल ही में शी लेफ्ट अस, एक्चुअली शी वाज अ फेमिनिस्ट एक्टिविस्ट, तो उन्होंने बहुत सारे स्टडीज की थी। उन्होंने भी बोला कि हमने सोचा था कि जैसे जैसे सुधार होगा शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में, वैसे वैसे चीजें सुधरेंगी, और जैसे जैसे स्ट्रिंजेंट लॉज पास होंगे, जैसे 1994 में हमारा प्री कंसेप्शन एंड प्री नैटल डायग्नोस्टिक टेक्निक एक्ट आया, जिसमें ये कहा गया कि भाई भ्रूण हत्या आपको नहीं करनी है, आपको चेक नहीं करना है कि मेल है कि फीमेल है। लेकिन आप देखिए कि नियम कानून तो बनते जा रहे हैं, बट हम आज भी वहीं के वहीं खड़े हैं। तो आज की सिचुएशन देखिए कि जो ज्यादा, और ये भी पाया गया है कि ज्यादा एजुकेटेड और एफ्लुएंट फैमिलीज में ये समस्या ज्यादा देखने को मिलती है, ठीक है, बिकॉज दे थिंक दैट डॉटर इज अ बर्डन। ओके, सो जो माइंडसेट है लोगों का वो बहुत खराब है, उसमें सुधार लाने की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है। और मेरे ख्याल से जब तक उसमें सुधार नहीं होगा तब तक आप लाख कानून बनाते रहिए, आप संविधान से उसको पास करवाते रहिए, ठीक है, बहुत ज्यादा चेंजेस आएंगे नहीं। क्योंकि आप लिटरेसी रेट की वजह से अगर कुछ होता कि एजुकेटेड लोग ऐसा नहीं कर रहे हैं, और यहाँ पे एक और हम आपको एग्जांपल दे दें, हरियाणा तो वैसे लैग करता ही है सेक्स रेशियो में, लेकिन हरियाणा में आप गुड़गांव को देखिए, आप गुड़गांव में घुसते हैं, आपको बड़ी बड़ी मल्टीनेशनल कंपनीज की जो है आपको बिल्डिंग्स दिखाई देती हैं, एंड यू फील वाओ, वी हैव जस्ट एंटर्ड अ वर्ल्ड क्लास सिटी। But you will be surprised to know that in the entire, state of Haryana, the most least sex ratio is from Gurgaon and Mewat, which is adjacent to Gurgaon. तो आप समझिए कि जो बिल्कुल जिसको आप एनसीआर में रख के देख रहे हैं और जहां पे मोस्ट एजुकेटेड तबका रह रहा है, अगर वहां पे ये समस्या सबसे ज्यादा है लीस्ट सेक्स रेशियो की, तो ये कितनी बड़ी समस्या है, ठीक है। और यहाँ पे तो जो रिसर्च हमारे यहाँ के लोगों ने किए ही है, बाहर जैसे अमर्त्य सेन ने काफी रिसर्च किया, all of you know Nobel laureate Shri Amartya Sen, right, in economics. So he has conducted lots of research, and he said, either it was Dress, either it was Miller, either it was Amartya Sen, they actually all of them said कि जो health है female children की वो neglect की जाती है, और यही prime reason होता है कि उनको disadvantage situation में ले आने का। फीमेल इनफॉर्टिसाइड तो जो समस्या है वो है ही, लेकिन जो हमारी गर्ल चाइल्ड जो हैं, फीमेल चिल्ड्रन जो हैं, उनके हेल्थ को जो नजरअंदाज किया जाता है, उसकी वजह से समस्या जो है और बढ़ती जा रही है। तो बैलेंस जेंडर में कभी नहीं होगा। बैलेंस इसलिए नहीं होगा क्योंकि अगर आप उन चीजों पर सुधार ही नहीं करेंगे, मानसिकता ही नहीं बदलेंगे, तो कैसे होगा, ठीक है। तो इसका इम्प्लीकेशन अब देखिए कि ये जो सारी समस्याओं पे जिन पे चर्चा हो रही है, इसका इम्प्लीकेशन इसलिए बहुत ज्यादा है क्योंकि हम जब ग्लोबल लेबर फोर्स की तरफ देखते हैं, जो 40% जो है स्त्रियों की भागीदारी है उसमें, ठीक है। हम जब वर्ल्ड एग्रीकल्चर लेबर फोर्स की तरह स्पेसिफिकली देखते हैं तो लगभग 43-44% उसमें भागीदारी है स्त्रियों की। और आप जैसे आप सब स्टूडेंट्स हैं, आप यूनिवर्सिटी स्ट्रेंथ में देखिए तो 50% ऑलमोस्ट फीमेल पार्टिसिपेशन होता है। तो अगर इनको हाशिए पे रखा जाएगा और ध्यान नहीं दिया जाएगा तो डेफिनेटली यू कैन नॉट यूटिलाइज देयर स्किल, देयर टैलेंट्स, right? If you want to reach that optimum level, you have undoubtedly you need that they should also be inclusive of the system, included in the system, and undoubtedly it is going to increase the productivity, ठीक है। तो आप देखिए कि बहुत सारी योजनाएं चल रही हैं, ठीक है, क्योंकि ये एक स्ट्रक्चरल प्रॉब्लम है। शॉर्ट टर्म में आप इसका सॉल्यूशन नहीं निकाल सकते। हमने देखा है कि जो है एब्डॉर्मेंट के लिए बहुत सारे लॉज पास हुए, इन्फेंटिसाइड के लिए हुए, नेग्लिजेंस ऑफ गर्ल चाइल्ड के लिए हुए, ट्रैफिकिंग, किडनैपिंग, सब पे लॉज आपने पास किए, आपने नियम बनाया है, कानून बनाया है। इम्प्लीमेंटेशन इज अ बिग क्वेश्चन, नंबर 1। और इसके साथ ही आपने पब्लिक अवेयरनेस कार्यक्रम किए हैं, पब्लिक अवेयरनेस कैंपेन्स लगाए आपने, यू हैव गारंटीड इक्वल सोशल एंड इकोनॉमिक राइट्स फॉर मेल एंड फीमेल। यस, योर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हैज एक्चुअली गारंटीड इट। बेसिक हेल्थ केयर फैसिलिटीज आपने स्पेशली रूरल इंडिया में आपने देने की कोशिश की, सब कुछ आपने किया है, लेकिन समस्या कहाँ है? समस्या स्ट्रक्चर में है। द प्रॉब्लम इज अ स्ट्रक्चरल, सो देयर इज नो शॉर्ट वे सॉल्यूशन टू इट। वी नीड टू थिंक ओवर इट, we need to start from our own house, okay, our own perspective lives, like Muskan also said कि प्राइवेट स्फीयर में हमें सोचने की जरूरत है। और जब हम प्राइवेट स्फीयर में सोचना शुरू करेंगे तो आज नहीं तो कल, इट्स नॉट दैट ओवरनाइट थिंग्स विल चेंज, लेकिन आज नहीं तो कल डेफिनेटली चेंजेस आएंगे। और ये चेंजेस ही एक्चुअली, ठीक है, ये जो चेंजेस आएंगे इससे सिर्फ हमारा ही नहीं, सिर्फ स्त्रियों का ही भला नहीं होगा, पूरे विश्व का भला होगा, पूरे समाज का भला होगा। Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Intricate description of the topic and this critical analysis of the topic, and I am sure that everyone received numerous insights for your scholarly and proficient views. Now we have come to the last part of the program, which is the vote of thanks. So for the same, I would now like to request Ms. Shubhi to come up on the stage for presenting the vote of thanks, to thank all the fraternity who, contributed in their own little ways to make this program reach to a successful conclusion. Ms. Shubhi, over to you.
No one is born hating another person because of color of his skin or his background or his religion, caste, gender. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can learn to love. For love comes more naturally to human heart than its opposite, said by Nelson Mandela. Good evening to everyone. As you may have seen, the hard work done by the History Department SACH in organizing this event. This department has achieved new heights in the session 2016-2017 under the convenership of Dr. D.N. Singh, Dr. Pramod Kumar, Dr. Manish Karmawar, Dr. Seema Meena, and Mr. Ajay Kumar. This was the first time when the department formed the History Society SACH. SACH has since then conducted various activities ranging from educational trips to webinars and seminars. At present, SACH conducts graduate scholars talk series for young minds. I, Shubhi Singh, student of BA program, got a golden opportunity to deliver vote of thanks. First and foremost, I would like to thank our guest of honor, Dr. Roli Raghuvanshi, who gave her valuable time and attended the event today. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your thoughtful and informative insight. Your scholarly and proficient words will always be in our mind. I would like to express my gratitude to all the respected teachers for joining us and gracing us with their presence in the program. Thank you to all the teachers, Dr. Pankajendra Kishore, Dr. Jaya, Dr. Raman Singh, Dr. Prabha Unyal, Dr. Anil Singh, Dr. Daljit Kaur, Dr. Simmi, Dr. Hema Rana, Dr. Krishna Kumari, Dr. Lal Sanglen, Dr. Shashi Bhushan Singh. I would also like to express my gratitude to convener Dr. D.N. Singh for gracing us in the program. Now, an earnest thanks to our speaker of the day, Ms. Muskan Sharma, who gave such an exceptional talk on the topic diverse discrimination. Your talk was really very insightful and enlightening. Thank you so much, Ms. Muskan. I would also like to thanks to all